We got to do something about that banner hanging behind you, man. No. It looks like something flew over your office and left something on the wall. Well, I know how that feels. Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll have a call the meeting in order at this time and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first item on the agenda today is an approval of the previous meeting's minutes from July 9th of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay, next we'll turn it over to Ms. Deborah Hamilton to review our financial statements.
Good morning. I have a unaudited version of June FY25 ending June 30th, 2025. We are going to look at the balance sheet first. Our cash balance compared to last year has increased 19.2%, and the fund balance has increased 17.6%. On our revenues, we have earned $3.8 million compared to a budget of $3.7. So the state accommodation taxes, we received a little bit more than we anticipated. As far as our expenses, this, like I said, has not been audited yet, but there are a few expenses that the committee needs to approve because we were over budget, and that's just due to the costs. There is nothing in there that's like extremely abnormal. It's just the cost of doing business. And the first item on the list is the water and irrigation. We budgeted 12.5 and it actually came in at 12,925. Everything in red is the items that we need to approve. The trash pickup from JLG, we budgeted 85,000 and that came in at $89,265. And as well as the 30%. Of course, the 30% is driven off of what we receive from the state. So because we received more, we contributed more to CVB. And that is $133,000 that needs to be approved. So those three items, everything else had already been previously approved in previous meeting. Those items need to be approved in this meeting.
If I may, in the
Yes.
past,
No.
we had that situation happen, and Desiree said that it couldn't have been approved at that meeting because it wasn't on the agenda. It has to
Okay.
be an agenda item. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying historically, that's what had happened in the past that has come up, and Desiree said it would need to be on the next agenda to be.
Okay, that's
Is
fine.
that Douglas?
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
That
Okay.
doesn't create a time
No,
concern.
no, it shouldn't.
Because this group wouldn't, I think, our normal cadence, or we now quarterly, I think, so that would have us.
Well, but I think Park feels that we talked about it a little bit in that because today's presentation is just a presentation and they want to vote on it because the.
That's right. So we'd be
request-
meeting October 8th.
Correct.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
If the
So that-
committee is available.
So we can do that.
Can I ask you just a question? I might have just not been listening well on the CDB funds. Can you explain why that needs approval, just so everybody has a chance to understand that a little bit more?
So from my understanding, anything that is over our budget that we present to the committee and council, anything over that dollar amount would need to be approved.
Okay.
Even though we receive more revenue, just like with the grant, we received money for that, the grant for whatever we received the grant for this year, that took us out of, I think, our budget, I think. But we received money for it. So anything that's outside of the budget range should be approved by the committee.
Okay, All right, great.
So the 964 was based on what we expected
Right.
to earn in terms of revenue. We actually earned a revenue that equated to $1,097,000. So it's just additional revenue requires the same ratio of pass-through, which is an
I see.
additional 133,000
Yeah.
passing through.
Okay, all right.
Now,
thank you.
I can go back and look at the verbiage on that to make sure, but I know anything
Yeah,
else.
I get it on the
budget.
expense side.
Yes.
That one is a little bit nebulous to me, so I just want to make sure I'm fine to approve, but I don't know. It seems like it's a passive thing rather than an active thing.
I think that's accurate to say.
Okay. We'll double check, make sure. I'm sorry, there's actually one more. There's like $1 on the beach service officer and a marina attendant. So that's like $1 difference, and that just needs to be,
Get
needs
a
to
dollar
be,
out of your pocket.
That's right.
needs to be approved. So as it stands now, unaudited numbers, we are anticipating $2.9 million in expenses to a budget of $4 million. And the difference in the savings, for the lack of better words, is we did not do the waterway in FY '25, Waterway Boulevard, that had been postponed to this year, FY '26. And the playground, the $124,000 for the playground was paid for by opera funds that the city received 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. So the ATAX did not cover that expense as well. We're ending the year, FY '25, at $3.7 million in state funds. That's on the state accommodation tax schedule. And that is a 7% increase over FY '24. For this fiscal year, we've only had 2 months of activity. But as for cash, we're 14.9% ahead of where we were in August of last year. I will update the schedule. I'm not really sure. I think some things change because there are a lot of activity that happens the first 2 months is accrued back to the previous fiscal year. And this is saying that there's excess revenue of $797,000. That is not the case. There's actually, we've only received income for interest. So that there's actually a loss compared to expenses versus revenue. So I'll update this schedule and send this back out. But the fund balance did not change much. It is still $5.6 million, and the liability and fund balance together is still $5.6 million. So I will update the schedule so you can see the real number, that it's not excess of revenue. Like I said, we've only received interest income, and that's $37,000 for July and August, those 2 months. And our expenses are, coming in, tracking as normal. And we've only spent like 2.5% of our $3 million budget thus far.
Great, is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Just for information. The $4,000 overage on trash pickup, why would that be if we have contracts?
That is our beach, so that's our beach contractor. He has a part of his work that's on call. So if.
Oh, okay.
So he has a contractual obligation to do a certain cadence. If we need additional pickups, we order that done. So there is some variation of what his contract calls for.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Great, thank you very much, Deborah.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have the presentation for the application for accommodations tax grant. Do we have a representative to do that presentation?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So, yeah, speaking to the microphone, we're on YouTube.
Morning.
Morning.
First off, I wrote some things. If I try to talk the cup, it's not going to go well. So
Say your name for the record.
Absolutely. Yes, my name is Elliot Cox. I'm here speaking on behalf of Coastal Retreat and the South Carolina Lutheran Retreat Centers. We're located on the between the 21st and 20th Avenue. Yeah, so we're a proud part of the South Carolina Lutheran Retreat Centers, which is one of 2 ministry sites that we operate in the state. The other being Camp Kynard, which is located in the Midlands of South Carolina. Since 1982, we've gladly welcomed thousands of individuals each year that consist of church groups, community and nonprofit organizations, students at both local and out-of-state schools, colleges, and universities, and a wide variety of others simply looking for a place to relax and enjoy the beauty and wonder that is found here on the Isle of Palms. In addition to providing a holy space to those outside of our community, we're also proud to welcome a number of local groups and organizations. This includes the Isle of Palms Turtle Team, hosting lunch for the Isle of Palms and Sullivan's Island monthly ministers gathering, and offering parking for the IOP cleanup crew beach sweeps, and many others. We're also proud to partner with the Isle of Palms Police and Fire Department by offering our entire facility as needed in the event of hurricane evacuations and other emergency situations. Our grant request this year focuses on repairing our well-used parking lot. This is often the first thing that guests see when they arrive on site. One of our top priorities is to provide a safe and welcoming environment to all those we serve, and we feel that a well-maintained parking lot is certainly on that list. Because of our proximity to the surrounding neighborhood, and including both longtime residents and those worshiping at the adjacent Methodist church, we realize that our parking lot deterioration is one obvious area we can improve upon to enhance the visual appeal of our beloved facility. Our grant request of $10,000 would provide ample seed money in order for us to complete this project. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to come speak. I welcome and invite any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. I'll open the floor to the committee to ask any questions.
Your status, are you a 501c3 religious?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, we are registered as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We had a chance to discuss earlier.
Okay.
I was just asking them all kind of questions about who his customer is, and it seems like a great organization.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So in your presentation, you said it's a parking lot, it's a paid parking lot. People have to pay to park there.
So we offer parking to guests that we serve.
Obviously, yeah.
So if they have an overnight rental, we provide the parking for them at no cost. That's all included.
Right.
When COVID arrived and we weren't able to physically host people just because of social distancing, one way to bring in revenue in creative ways was to offer public paid parking. So our priority is to provide parking for guests on site. When we do have additional unused spaces, we are able to rent those out to the general public. So anyone that comes on a lot, if there's a space available, they can just scan a code, and that revenue helps fund our nonprofit as well. But our primary focus is on providing parking to our overnight guests.
Well, I appreciate your presentation, Elliot. You did a good job, and quite honestly, I've driven by that place 1,000 times and never really knew what it was. So for me, this has been educational, as much as I probably shouldn't admit that in public. One of the kind of the tenets of this committee is about putting heads in beds, and I want to note for the record that I got that right this time. I think you've done a nice job, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more in terms of, because what we're trying to drive here is more people to come to the Isle of Palms at the end of the day to enjoy everything that's here, including our local businesses. So can you kind of give us maybe, I don't know if you can share some statistics on heads you put in beds or something else to kind of give us a little more comfort level that this money is kind of going in that direction?
Yeah. So with us being a retreat center, we provide a place for year-round gatherings. This summer, we have 20 bedrooms, and this summer our occupancy was about 70% over the course of, I think it was about the 90 days that we consider kind of peak summer. Very similar to a number of people that I've met here on the island that have driven past us a number of times and never been able to know exactly what we do. So by seeing enhancements going on, we hope that will drive people to be a little more curious and stop by. It also enables us to kind of fulfill our overall mission of providing a holy space. And as people come and stay with us, they can be part of their own church group. A lot of times they say, hey, I have, my business, or my own nonprofit that I work with, we're looking for a place to kind of come and stay with us. And so the kind of, so one group comes, and that may spawn 2 other groups, and those 2 other groups may spawn additional groups. So the more people we're able to welcome, and then those that have a positive experience and want to come back, it can have ripple effects in those who we're serving, and not only that, but the impact on the local economy as well, and what they're able to do with their year. So,
That's great.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, it sounds like a great resource for the island. I'm kind of excited to know about it.
Yeah, and we were speaking before the meeting, anytime, folks are driving by, I live right in the house next door, so if there looks like there's nobody there, feel free to stop by. I'm usually in the office, but I'd love to give you all a tour and show you what all we have and what we all able to operate to those, both locally as well as, in-state and out-of-state.
Did you happen to bring a bid from any of the contractors?
Yeah, so we've got one official bid that we've been working on. Their bid came in around $17,000. I've got it here, I'm welcome to leave it here. It addresses both some repairs that need to be done, things that have eroded away, as well as the resurfacing, the ceiling, and then restriking the lot. So we've got one bid for, I think it was about $17,000. Another group that I've talked with, their bid came in closer to $20,000-25,000. Because we don't have a firm deadline for when the project needs to be complete, a lot of times their bids are valid for 30 days. So they've got all the information. They said once we have a firm date, then they can give us some more actual costs. But theirs were a little bit higher, at the $20,000 to $25,000 range, so they were thinking.
And do you have any type of numbers on how many out of town versus how many in town?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. Having been with the organization since 2011, before moving here, I was in our main office, and I was the person scheduling groups. So having that institutional knowledge and being here for about 5 minutes, 5 years, the annual attendance that we welcome is probably around, let's say, 1,500 or so, 2,000. Knowing that we have 20 bedrooms and there's 52 weekends in the year, 52 weeks in the year, that once we hit capacity, we can't grow beyond that. So that's about where we're at. The consistency has certainly been there with groups coming in and going. We've seen a high demand, and oftentimes we're turning away more folks that we can say, yes, we have space come in, which I think is a good problem to have for us at least. But yeah, I think annually probably around 1,500 to 2,000 individuals that are staying with us throughout the course.
And they're coming from off island?
Primarily, yeah. I would say about 95% of them are, they're traveling from out of state, whether that's in or out of town, whether that's from the Columbia, Greenville, Florence areas. We even host during spring break. We'll get a number of colleges and universities. Recently, this year, we've had students from Michigan State University, from Siena College up in New York, from a number of out-state individuals that are coming here. So primarily out-of-state individuals as well as out-of-city individuals as well as out-of-state individuals as well. But the large majority are folks coming from out of town.
How many rooms do you have?
Yeah, so we have 20 bedrooms that we offer. Yep.
And you focus more toward groups as opposed to individuals?
Correct. Yeah, we're primarily set up for group reservations. When we do have excess space available and the group that we're hosting is okay with it, we will rent just individual rooms on occasion. A lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, it's folks who have previously stayed with us. It's not just random people driving by and saying, hey, I need a room for the night. So it's people that we've often come to know, and there's already a relationship there. So we are set up for group reservations. That's primarily what we serve, but we do host individuals as well.
And typically, they're confirming their reservation how far out?
Correct, yeah, so we booked a year in advance, so right now, it feels weird to say we're booking through September of 2026. We asked them to confirm numbers 30 days prior, so we generally have a pretty good idea about a month out what their numbers are looking like. But there is that deadline that we ask them to submit information by.
It's a pretty interesting model.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Mike, I can't see you. Do you have any questions?
No, sir. That was educational, and I like that they bring people on the island. I like that they're good partners during emergencies, and anything to make their grounds look better certainly is good for the island.
Yeah, I think the pictures, Nicole, you shared via email, if the group didn't have a chance to look at them, they are fairly, they kind of speak for themselves, right? And it is a very public facing place. And as a sidebar, not to bore you with this, but we have been having some discussions about beautification, right? So, and making the island more appealing to our visitors. And so this would certainly sort of kind of fall into that world of not seeing that parking lot off to the side. So, yeah, thanks a lot for sharing that. Those were good. Any other comments, questions? So the way this works, just so I don't know if you've briefed you on this or not, but today is just like a Q&A session, and then we'll have hopefully have another meeting on October the 8th. And that's when we would vote up or down to refer this to the Isle of Palms City Council. Can someone speak to what that timeline would be? Because we just refer it to the council, recommended to the council, and then they would vote on it in their next meeting.
They would vote on their October meeting, which that meeting would be October 28th.
Just to give you some timeline and feel for, this isn't going to happen overnight as with any governmental project, but we'll move with as much expediency as we can.
I appreciate that.
Great. No more questions? Thank you very much, Elliot. We appreciate
Thank you so much for
it.
your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on the list is our friends from CVB. Chris Campbell and Ike High are going to give us a quarterly update and have some discussion with you all.
Good morning.
Welcome back. Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, a little bit different weather, but I'm kind of ready for fall. With me this morning is Ike High. I think you all have met him at a prior meeting. Ike is a member of our group sales team, and more specifically works with our travel advisors. And we're going to talk briefly on the significance of that group. So thanks for the opportunity to give you a little update. So I want to first go and look in the rearview mirror quickly and give you an update on a component of the TURC process, the Tourism Expenditure Review process, and the 24-25 budget. So our audit is being completed as we speak. That'll go in front of our board at the end of October, and then we will be working with all of our municipalities on the TURC reports. Deborah and her peers across the region to get the TURC reports back to you all and to each of the municipalities ahead of the November deadline, mid-November deadline. So we always are kind of afoot in two different canoes, and so we're living a little bit in fiscal 24-25 from a reporting standpoint. But all eyes from a promotion and our activity perspective is on 26, fiscal year 25-26. So I want to touch a little bit on some of those initiatives. Want to talk first about performance. I know we've talked about the uncertainty, and I'm afraid that word has not been removed from vocabulary. I guess we were talking about that yesterday. And then I want to speak to a couple of initiatives that are ongoing. And I'll preface that by saying that our quarterly report, you are familiar with, we provide the municipalities with a quarterly report on a regular basis. We are slightly delayed, literally by a few days. I'm sorry I can't deliver those today. We just got the last state number to fill out our comparisons from the state and national and regional level. And so those will be forthcoming by the end of this week, first of next. I do have some IOP numbers though I can speak to. So from a performance perspective, we are very fortunate, and I was glad to see the ATAX collections pour this out in the financial report, that April momentum and the strong spring we saw carried into the summer, at least the data we have to this point. August has not been completely closed from our perspective in terms of all of the performance numbers in. So everything I'm referring to now is really through July, if you will. The ADR continued to improve fairly consistently across the board. And again, I'm speaking to hotels at this point. Those results over the last few months really helped us make up the ground and mitigate the losses from January, February, March, where we had the weather and the leap day and then the shifting in Easter. All of those made year-over-year comparisons really tough for the first quarter. The first quarter was looking a little bleak when all things considered. Second quarter came in much better, and we're very pleased with that. So shifting now to vacation rentals, overall we're very pleased with how things have been looking. for the summer year to date. We know in talking through with a few property managers, there has been volatility. That word is going to come up routinely for the foreseeable future. But on the whole, year-to-date demand across all of our area beaches, including the IOP rental market, has outpaced last year, and ADRs have continued to climb. May was a particularly strong month based on our available data specific to the island. And of course, that's the good news, is we were also staying well ahead of our 2019 in that pre-pandemic performance. I would still say we're more towards stabilizing. You know, we had wondered where things were going to come down and settle in, and I'm thinking we're starting to see that point right now. As I look ahead, the challenge is, you know, the prevailing word is uncertainty, as I mentioned. Nationally, if you pay attention to the reduction, a lowering of the forecast for overall accommodations performance United States wide. A lot of that's driven by macro forces, tariff policies and other economic uncertainty that goes along with that has required or has driven the analysts almost across the board to reduce all the forecasts to little or no growth over the next 6 months. And I would say the good news is we tend to perform a little better than the national average, and we have proven that in the last few months. We're always looking at 18 other markets to see how our lodgings are performing, and those go coast to coast, north to south. And we continue to look very good year over year. I won't get into all those details in the interest of time, but suffice to say, with each new month, we're keeping tabs on how are those national trends showing up locally, if you will. The economy we're living in now is K-shaped. So we've got going to go down a level here. We've got luxury and upper scale categories that are continuing to grow, not post-COVID growth, but still steady growth. And then the lower tiered category hotels are starting to see continued pullback. That's where the economy is driving this bifurcation that we talked about a couple years ago. The gap had started to close. Now it's absolutely starting to show up again in the not only national scene, but we are starting to see a little bit of that locally as well. And any questions? I always like this to be conversational. So from a performance standpoint, you know, I don't want to.
Question, that was very interesting about the K-shape. You're saying that is for the foreseeable future?
That,
Okay.
actually, just yesterday I read that, so Smith Travel is a part of CoStar, if you know real estate, you probably know that CoStar name. They are some of the leading analysts in hotel performance. Their analysts are saying we're going to probably ride that wave through 26. It'll probably be 27 before things close. What could change that is, let's say there's a rollback in tariff policy, stabilization of some of those macro level forces that, you know, increases people's confidence.
And you were saying the upper trend was the luxury traveler?
Correct.
And just, can you describe who that is? Or?
Well, that's a wonderful question. When we say luxury, it doesn't necessarily mean the most affluent. Obviously, it tends to be a higher income family or individual, but it is, the definition of luxury started to shift post-COVID, and what I mean by that is it's the aspirational traveler. It's the person who's willing to save up and prioritize travel and pay up for it. So it's really more about not the luxury consumer, but those who are choosing luxury properties or upper upscale properties, if that makes sense. And of course, you know, Wild Dunes categorized as those are categorized as luxury properties. Certainly, our market has grown from an inventory standpoint in luxury, and that has served us well. We don't take our eye off the ball though for the rest, and that's something we're very quick to point out.
So, question for you then, like we talked about Wild Dunes, how does the vacation the rental market? Where does it fall into that spectrum, specific to the Isle of Palms, right? I mean, I know there's Airbnbs and outposts that may not qualify, but a front beach, 10-bedroom house, I would assume that would probably,
My understanding is those are still.
Yeah.
And they're still driving some, well, the numbers that we have access to play out. Rod, I think you might have some personal insight, so I'm gonna let you know, he's closer to the ground,
Yeah.
so, correct me if I'm off. But based on the conversations to date, again, the summer was a little bumpy at places, but on the whole, those are still selling. There are people that are willing to pay 10, 20, 30, 40, upwards of $50,000 for a property for a week for their family. Where it might be pulling back a little bit is in your smaller properties, the villas, the 1 and 2 bedroom, for folks that might be a more budget conscious traveler.
so we have our own K out here in a manner of speaking.
I'm not able to prove that. My suspicion is yes.
Yeah.
Because the way if the rates are up and our occupancy is relatively flat on the whole, it's telling me that we're probably, because IOP has the predominance of the largest houses of all our island communities, those are the ones that are moving the needle. You have any?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with most of that.
Rod, you speaking in the mic?
Yeah, I feel like, when you and I were speaking earlier in the summer, it was a little uncertain. We may have even been down a point or two. The nightlies took a hit, and that may have come back, but all in all, the occupancy was solid. I think the one thing, and I don't know how this is going to impact you guys or us, if you guys can look into this, Airbnb announced a 15% additional management fee to hit October 1. So, my guess is they were already getting 5%. So, again, I don't want to get in the conversation of channel shift and where the renter comes from, but if you guys find that there's any impact or could be any impact, or that would be very interesting for this group to at least understand.
Absolutely. I was not aware of that. So
Yeah, if you guys go Google it, you'll get plenty of information. Now, will that stick? Who knows? Kind of a bold move, but
Right.
I think it speaks to the efforts of all of our businesses to kind of have some direct line of sight to the renter. Yeah, visitors, I shouldn't say renter, visitors in general. So anyway, that's the only thing I see coming that could maybe make things a little uncertain moving into next year.
And I wonder if there's a way to obtain, a lot of places are advertised on multiple platforms.
Yes.
So will that shift, right? Will that just be VRBO that gets pickup, or direct bookings? I'm not sure. Thank you for that, and we will definitely look into that. The two other, Rod alluded to something that I missed earlier, and I apologize. The booking windows. So he talked about, it's the beginning of the summer, we were seeing, there was a lot of uncertainty. Hoteliers were saying the same thing. And it's amazing how it's not just the leisure traveler, but also group travel is now, the booking window is compressing. You'd be blown away. Inside of 30 days, the corporate groups that are looking for buyouts of properties or other types of accommodations. It's great because it gives us confidence that we're going to close some gaps that we might see in our forward-looking data. But it makes a property manager or revenue manager go crazy because you're trying to figure out how to move that needle and adjust to capture the demand. So that's a universal, that's a national trend, and it's absolutely showing up here as well.
That's just a supply-demand thing though, right? I mean, they wouldn't do it if they couldn't do it. So there's obviously supply out there, and
Sure,
you can
yeah.
create their own demand. If they're like, hey, we can go to Charleston in a month and stay at Wild Dunes and get 20 rooms, no problem, then they don't have to plan that out 6 months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just uncommon to see
Yeah.
that much in the group side, because usually these are organizations corporate groups that would tend to book. I'm not sure if it might just be a post-COVID, honestly, mentality shift in terms of, the psychology of travel shifting. But again, not just in leisure, in our group area as well. So where do we our word to wrap up the performance side of the conversation is, we think it's going to be bumpy for the next 5 to 6 months. It's not going to be the linear growth. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad, and we don't expect it to be gangbusters. But there's going to be some volatility because of the uncertainty with all those macro level situations. Knock on wood, we're at almost mid-September, and we have avoided the thing I won't mention, and that also bodes well for us.
So a question I would have then is, that happens to coincide with the slower season here, right? So the shoulder season and then the winter months. So, since uncertainty's coming, what is CVB? I'm sure you're going to get into that, but I'll set it up for you. You haven't talked in a while, but I'll tee it up for you.
Thank you.
What are you guys going to do about it?
Look in my notes, huh? So, in terms of the ongoing, so we hit the ground running. We've obviously are only a couple months into the fiscal year, so I'm going to speak about a couple of initiatives that are ongoing. The primary one being our creative is being wrapped up now, some new content that will be launched with our VRBO program. And I'm very excited about the fact that we're in that space based on what Rod just shared. So we'll be talking to the folks. Expedia, by the way, is the parent of VRBO. And so we've been in recent conversations with them. I would like to share that they have indicated our performance is really strong. It's a very, very competitive space. We're not the only one out there. But the VRBO campaign is a big part of what we're launching this fall, and that'll be coming online in October. We're also in preparation, so this is where I mentioned Ike and the group sales team. One specific big trade show is the Signature Travel Trade Show in Las Vegas coming up in November. And that is where Ike and also Wild Dunes will be attending that. Holding 100, I believe you said.
We'll meet with about 100 travel advisors.
travel
And Wild
advisors.
Dunes will probably meet with around 100 travel advisors too, that will be in that luxury space that Chris mentioned that has that, excuse me, luxury clientele that won't be as affected by the macro influences that we're seeing come about right now. Or we hope they won't be as influenced by those influences.
So these are the folks that are speaking directly to consumers. The travel advisor is far from a dying industry post-COVID. It is actually growing. More and more people, especially the upper income or more affluent travelers, are choosing. And so our investment in Signature has continued to show is paying dividends. Last year, I shared some great data. We're running about 20% year over year as a market on revenue or bookings generated through Signature Travel. And again, that's a luxury consortium. So that equates to about $1 million for the region as a whole. There's a number of other marketing and media initiatives, digital, et cetera, also in the space, and earned media in motion. I want to spend a quick moment talking about some things that were also in the budget that are broader, longer range projects that Chandra is working on specifically. One of those is with the Council of Governments, the walkability study. That is in motion, no pun intended, that was really. But no, that is ongoing. There's an open house, I believe. They're working the schedule for October. And that'll give the community an opportunity to learn more and ask some questions. The branding project, the Islands branding project, is finalized. They're in the finalization of the request for qualifications around that. And then Chandra and I will be holding a discovery meeting with our video production firm. We want to create some new video content for the island. We're going to be holding the discovery meeting in the fall in preparation for filming in the spring for new content to be available next year. And then I'd like to also touch on, we've had some nice conversations with the chamber and our ongoing efforts to see where we have opportunities for collaboration and how we can align our efforts and support their work and lifting up specific around our digital advertising agencies to make sure we're aligning efforts, and we look forward to those continuing as well. Any questions?
Quick question about the conference in November. I guess it's mine, hopefully everybody's hopes, that when you go and somebody says the Charleston beaches, it is our hopes that
Luxury influencers in Instagram Live, and TikTok and some more social ways than just VRBO. Have we been using that or thinking about it? Because it seems like there's a lot going on in the luxury market, and there's some pretty powerful influencers.
Yeah, we do have several that we work with. Usually that will come through some of our other partnerships. We do get a lot of influencers. We vet a lot of those there. Mike, you would be blown away at the number of people who think they're an influencer. But the short answer is we do try to leverage partnerships with those who have reach on a social platform. And that has paid dividends, and some of those places are with existing partnerships. When we can get editors in the market, when we can get travel writers in the market. So it may not be the influencer that you would ordinarily think about, but those folks, it's part of that broader relationship that we're able to leverage. When they start posting about this region, that is money well spent.
If you are interested, we can have a side conversation. We're now part of a global holding company with a very large influencer group called Influential.
Okay.
And it might be worth it for you guys to have a conversation.
I would love to learn more. We will reach out to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing I think I brought this up in one of the meetings in the last couple of times, is I'm still seeing Wild Dunes advertising on local television, which I think is pretty fascinating. So I wonder if, from a CBB perspective, if there would be a push. I mean, I know it seems odd that Isle of Palms would advertise locally, but there's a reason Wild Dunes is doing that, and they're talking about, I think, they staycation or whatever the term is. Is that something that CBB could look at? I mean, these are people who, again, thinking about that K, somebody that can watch Channel 2 as an example, that may live an hour from here, that, like, we can't afford to go someplace else, but we surely can afford to drive an hour to Isle of Palms because there's no airplanes and whatever else. Is there any kind of a possibility of us kind of mirroring what Wild Dunes is doing? Because they do it a lot. I mean, I don't watch that much TV, and I see their advertisements pretty regularly, which I'm just fascinated by.
I'm going to dig into that with them, just because I'm not as familiar with some of those advertisements. But yes, the short answer is yes, there would be an opportunity and a place where we're looking to enhance our local voice. And we do have a number of great partnerships there, but in a true promotional fashion, not just the earned media type of way. Is because we're seeing some pullback in the downstream revenue being generated by the economy, by the tourist, the visitor. So attractions, for example, are feeling the hit more so than probably any other sector of our industry. So how can we encourage more local engagement with those? So I could see us piggybacking, have some staycation, maybe there's a package type of an opportunity. Part of that.
I see a lot of, I mean, where I live, I see a lot of day trippers that come from far away, right? I mean, they come in and drive in from Columbia or wherever else. I know that maybe Channel 2 doesn't reach that, and I know you guys are focused on these luxury markets, but I just think there's a drive time component of that should be interesting. The day trippers are fine, but they create a lot of congestion, a lot of concern versus somebody that comes and stays one night, 2 nights, things like that.
Absolutely, and that's the key. We want to make sure we're not driving up day trips. We're trying to drive your overnight.
Right. You're welcome, Douglas.
That's a great thought, and I suspect that's an opportunity. I'm confident that's an opportunity across the board for a lot of our island communities. I don't vacation very far away. You would probably consider me a local, but how many people may not consider that? Great suggestion.
Thank you.
May I make one suggestion? You say the more or less the high end, the influential traveler. They're looking, and I know of houses that are commanding $30,000 and $40,000 a week on the southern end of the island. We're looking, and we'll have a discussion on beautification, especially when you are considering a video. Do you have any recommendations for where we need to focus the beautification? I did read with Con-Nest Travel that Charleston has been bumped to 2 or 3, and Santa Fe, New Mexico is taken number 1, and they don't have a beach. So what are they doing? And it is a beautiful, it's a very beautiful, I mean, talk about beautification. If we, and what I've suggested, and we are going to discuss it, but I need your input because you see things in a more strategic way of what we can do to make people come to make it more inviting for people to come here regardless of whether there's a beach or not.
Well, you're talking about just enhancing the sense of place, right?
Yes.
And that welcoming spirit. And we did get not to 3 in travel and leisure. We do take note. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Here's where we feel we have an opportunity. And the short answer is yes. And in working with Chandra and during this discovery process, our video production team is local. And so they know this area. They've done other projects for us. I will also challenge them. What are they seeing? What is there something that a flag that they would like to see replaced? Plants they'd like to see replanted? Things that are reasonable. We also want to get creative, and what I mean by that is we know family is important, and the reason we want to have a discovery meeting is how do we show all of the opportunity that the island includes, right? Have a family pulling into that beach house and help people set this as a sense of place, not just the resort, we want to touch on that, but those very nice homes that you referenced, the front beach area, et cetera, et cetera. Where we have Santa Fe, and we have to continue to tell the story, is we're a more diverse destination. I would argue we have more attributes. We do not have mountains, we do not have a ski slip, but we've got just about everything else. And we know there's visitors that don't yet understand all we have, and those are the folks we're going after and trying to talk to. So we will keep that in mind. Thank you for the invitation as we work on that video. I always love the conversation. This is great.
You're always invited.
Well, thank you.
Anything else for?
We enjoy our work, Douglas with Chandra very much. So this has been a big year of transition for the city and Deborah, so we appreciate their patience in working with us, and we certainly enjoy our working relationship with them.
Right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Great. And next on the agenda, as Rebecca alluded to, is discussion and consideration of future beautification projects. Easy for me to say, as usual. So I know one of the takeaways from our last meeting is that we were going to maybe just take a look around and see if there were any areas that jumped out at us that we would bring to the city's attention, because it wouldn't necessarily be ATAX funds. As we've talked about with Douglas, it could be a combination of funds, but if we say, we want to do something to beautify the fire department on 41st, for example, or something along those lines, that may not come out of ATAX funds in the first place. So I just want to open up the floor and see if anybody has come across any really great opportunities. And Rebecca, thank you for that idea, because I think we all live here, and once you see the same, piece of laundry on the floor every time you walk by, suddenly it disappears, right? So I think a photographer, a videographer, somebody along those lines that looks at it through a different view that's a fascinating way to think about it. Anything that jumps out at folks from your homework?
I'm not a very good student, so I didn't do my homework, but something that does jump out to me when we're planning another unit off of Daniel Island, and when we got the schematics back I took it to my friend to look at, and she said, there's just too much hardscape, we need to soften it. And I think that's just something to me is, again, it goes back to the vegetation, if we could just do something, maybe even with the native plants here, so the upkeep is not that bad. That's my 2 cents for today, but it just, if we could soften Isle of Palms a little bit, maybe. And I don't know if that means taking care of our palms a little bit better, and I don't know if there's scheduled trimmings that you have to do, or we can increase the trimmings, or, I love when we come in and you see the church. I think that's a really nice, they do a really good job. And that's the way I turn every day, so it's just very nice to look at. And I think if we help the church out to maybe soften that area a little bit, to go around, it'd be a nice flow.
At 21st Avenue?
Yes. Of course, I'll say 41st Avenue's, that turn into the marina is a little lacking. I could use some vegetation there as well.
And walkability, again, I cover this island almost every day, and there is very few places you can go and not have to feel like you've got to have eyes in the back of your head and the side to keep from getting run over. If there, and this may take a lot of views on this, but to be able to walk from the southern part of the island to the northern part of the island, especially through downtown, but with broken sidewalks and then sidewalks ending, and then you're jumping around, going up J.C. Long Boulevard is, you're taking your life in your hands. People backing out, parking spaces, and there's no place to walk. Overall, we need to look at the ease of walkability. And people really, it's very hard for them to walk anywhere, especially getting toward the center of the island.
Because there are sidewalk plans, right, for Waterway and Palm?
Well, so, and as Chris referenced, there's currently a project underway through the Council of Governments that is, the name is shifted from a walkability study to a mobility study, but it is intended to give us the baseline data of where is our kind of secondary access routes in terms of bicycle paths, sidewalks, golf cart paths. What is the condition? What's there? What's its condition? Where are the lacking connective pieces? And where should it be kind of aimed and oriented and prioritized? So we're hopeful that project, and Chandra, when's the date of that open house? October 20th. At the rec center at 5:30? Yes. At 5:30, the Council of Governments will be there. They are hoping to engage with the residents on exactly this kind of question. Where are you trying to get to? Like your comment about the ability to walk from one end to the other end. That would be a key kind of piece of information that they would look at, study. And then we hope at the end of that, they will provide us kind of a priority list to start working down as we do our projects annually to make some of those connections happen. And that is work that's being done with the help of the CVB. They're funding that and helping in that regards.
Where would ATAX come into play to that, Douglas? I think that's the part that I think, we want to make sure we stay in our lane in terms of what we can influence. Could ATAX look at possibly proposing that we help fund studies for that? We don't have enough money to replace one block of one sidewalk, right? So,
right.
That's not feasible, but if are there ways that ATAX can
You certainly,
contribute?
So at the end of that process, there will be a list, and there's going to be a kind of a project list. I think it would be certainly appropriate for this group if you, and part of the kind of sausage making will be prioritizing that list. If this group, I think it would be appropriate for you to look at the end result of that process. If you all would be interested in pulling out a few key initiatives and say, hey, we think this connective piece meets our goals, you can certainly help prioritize that. And that's part of what we hope will happen.
Great. I think it's helpful.
And then the funding part of it will be, once the priorities are identified, prioritized, we will go back and look at the funding mechanisms to see what can we kind of stomach each year in our budgetary process.
Right.
Some of that money will be ATAX money, obviously, that goes towards funding those future projects.
When is that meeting?
October 20th at 5:30 at the rec center. It's going to be a drop-in. They're going to be, the Council of Governments is going to have, and we know they've already taken the inventory, so they have a lot of good data now. They're also releasing just a survey. They're going to try to get feedback via survey and then try to also get a feedback from this drop-in at the rec center to hopefully engage with folks and hear their ideas about what the needs are.
Is this one of these existential timelines that we're going to be sitting here talking about this in 2030?
Absolutely. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens
2030
overnight.
may be ambitious, is what you're telling me. Got it.
Yeah, we, these things, we have sewer master plans that include $50 million of the projects. We have drainage master plans, $50 million of the projects.
Yeah.
Beach renourishment plans, more than 50, so, we
But
have
what you're
hundreds
suggesting-
of millions
yeah,
of
but
dollars.
There could be some low-hanging fruit maybe that
Yeah.
we could be like, look, okay, we can't help you with the sewers and septic tanks and everything else, but we can help you with, softscapes
Yeah.
or softening up this intersection over here.
Yeah, just kind of from a sheer funding and process standpoint, beautification, these connective pieces, they are much, none of it happens quickly, so not to paint a rosier picture than it actually is, but those are much less complex than sewering the island
Sure.
or sealing off tidal inundation. And that kind of stuff, once the 21st Avenue sidewalk got kind of on the drawing board, it happens in a matter of weeks, the actual construction. So they are much simpler, kind of to your point, lower hanging fruit
Right.
type projects that hopefully we could, if we had some good prioritization and, we could knock a lot of that out and make good headway with those type projects.
Should we have, of course, I have a preference, but it doesn't mean Mr. Chestnut, but have someone to come in and sit with us and say, he's the one that did the downtown Charleston. And of course, I lived in Mobile, Alabama, and you don't know what beautiful it is. And yet, it's almost like a sister city to Charleston. But to have him what would you do as to soften, to beautify this island without going into, and he would probably do it with, I would say plants, arrangements, less here, more there. But any good landscaping person with a history of success, I will say, could do the same thing. But Mobile, to me, that's the most beautiful city I've ever lived in. And you've got the crepe myrtles on the corner in March, on every corner going down Spring Hill Avenue and right through the town. You would have women in antebellum Scarlett O'Hara dresses with the big bonnets with baskets, and when people would stop at the light, they would hand them flowers as values. And there was no cost at all. It was just, and people would come there just to go up and down the main street of Mobile to see that beautiful, beautiful rendering of the Old South. And it's like Chris said, let's get creative. Not that we need to do that, but let's get creative and give people a draw to come here as opposed to just Myrtle Beach type of living, lifestyle. So, 2 cents.
Okay, that's good. Should we then wait for suggestions until the 20th? And maybe pull out something there?
I
To
mean,
see what the
it seems like they've
majority?
done some legwork already, right? I mean, if you think some of that stuff will be there, maybe we can all try to make either
Yeah.
go to that or get some feedback from
Yeah,
that.
and we can definitely direct the Council of Governments, as part of their kind of stakeholder meetings and part of their proposals, what they develop, we can certainly include this body as
Right.
somewhere along the way, and maybe it's probably would be after their kind of initial findings to come back to the city and
Sure.
show what they've developed.
This is the gentleman that spoke today. I think beautification would begin right there at 21st Street, at the church that you say is so, really needs help. If we can help him out, so that's what it's like now, and to have a pretty parking lot, and maybe he'll put some plants.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to wait till the 20th and try to hit that, and then kind of ride that wave
that
with
up.
those folks, yeah,
That
okay.
sounds good.
All right, I'm trying to be good with everyone's time, we're after 11 now, so any new business for the committee?
Can't add it-
Ma'am?
Can't add anything to the agenda.
Okay.
You want to talk about what you want to put on the agenda next time.
Ah. So the only agenda for next time then obviously is, if everyone's fine with the meeting on October the 8th, if you can check your calendars, then what we would obviously do is need to vote on this new accommodations tax, or the new grant that Mr. Cox covered today.
And then we'll have Deborah's.
And then we'll have Deborah's audited financial statements and all that by then, in theory, right? No?
Not by October 8th, they arrive,
The auditors arrived the week of October the 6th, so we will not have audited
all right.
financial statements until November.
Okay.
But you will.
But we
we'll want
will
an
need this
action.
approved.
That's right, we need to
Yes.
have so on the agenda, Nicole, right, we'll need to do the vote for the overages,
Yes.
and we'll figure out if we need to vote on the additional money from the 30%.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good. Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.